Hello, Grade 10 Mindsetters. Welcome to your Life Sciences show on a Wednesday. I am Luni, and with me today is a very special person, Tara.
Thank you. It's
How
such a
are
nice
you?
welcome. Well, how are you?
I'm good, because
That's
you know
good.
you're always here with Lou.
I know, I've always
you're
got like the
always
white
cutting
coat and cutting
pie.
stuff.
Yes, so
and I
now
know.
it's nice to see you in a different light.
Thank you. Actually looking clean for a
Yes,
change.
you know, without that white coat. So what are we
Gloves.
doing for the Grade 10s today?
Today we are doing biotic and abiotic factors in ecosystems. So what's living, what's non-living, how they work together, cool stuff like that.
All right, Mindsetters, I hope you guys are excited for the show. Remember to hit us up on Facebook, on facebook.com/LearnExtra. Our Twitter handle is @LearnExtra, and you can get all the show notes, the videos, and the schedules on learn.mindset.co.za. And if you want to win yourself this awesome Casio calculator, I've posted the link on our Facebook page for the Test Yourself competition. Just fill that in, complete all the answers, fill in the entry with all the right answers, and then you'll stand a chance to win the Casio calculator. All right.
Can we win those Casio calculators?
No.
I could do with
Because
one
I
of
could
those.
take this home right now.
This
You
is
see,
true.
it's unfair.
So are those good questions? Are they
Yes,
tough?
yes.
Are they
very-
easy?
I think a
Do
bit
we have
of
to think of
both.
it?
Yeah.
So shall I just stick to ecosystems?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll stick to ecosystems. Okay, so today, ecosystems. What specifically are we going to talk about? Focus on the factors that affect ecosystems. So like I said to you, we're going to talk about biotic and abiotic factors. But before we do that, let's talk about the challenge question. So remember, something to get you thinking, get your brains going, so that you can sort of have one half of your brain thinking about the question while the other half of your brain listens to what I'm saying. So the question goes like this. Multinational mining corporation is seeking the rights to mine coal in the Kruger National Park. What argument can you make in support of this proposal and in opposition to the proposal? So you have to do for and against. So you have to pretend that you are the person who wants to mine there, and then on the other side you have to pretend that you're the person who doesn't want coal mining to happen there. So give that some thought for the next couple minutes and we'll come back to it. Make sure you're thinking. Right, let's get going. Lini, are you ready for this?
Yes.
You sure about that?
Always.
Okay, right, so ecosystems. Okay, what are ecosystems? They are comprised of, make sure that we've got this thing working today. Pink for girls. We'll go with pink for girls. 2 parts. Non-living, called abiotic, and living aspects, called biotic. All the living things depend on the specific ecosystem for food, water, shelter. The growth and development of plants and animals in the ecosystem is as a direct result of interactions with the several abiotic factors. Lots of words. What does it mean? It means that we have 2 categories. We've got a category or a group of things that describes the non-living stuff, like water and air and light and the rocks and in which direction is the plant facing. And the living category will be literally your living things, so your plants and your animals and your birds and your bacteria, etc., etc. So we're going to start with the non-living things. Luni,
Yes.
I know you're busy playing on your computer there. Can you remember what the non-living terminology is? I see you peeking at the board there. Can you remember what non-living is?
Abiotic.
Ah, good girl. Abiotic. Nice. Okay, so let's talk about abiotic, non-living. Okay, so if we look at our little diagram here, we've got tadpoles, we've got flies, we've got a frog, we've got a fish, we've got a snail, we've got water weeds. Cool. The problem is they're not abiotic. Those are all our biotic factors. So why do I have this name abiotic and a picture with lots of living things? Because you need to try and spot what the non-living things are. So let's have a look. We have here, in my cute pink pen, water. Water is abiotic. You have the sun. It's nicely written for us there. We have the air, which is made up of, actually, can we post a question? Okay, so, mindsetters, the question is this. What are the main gases that air is made up of? Okay, so what are the main gases that air is made up of? Okay, so a couple minutes to think about that. What are the main gases air is made up of? So, back to the diagram. We've got water. we've got the sun, we've got air. Other than that, not too many abiotic factors in here. If we look at our under the sea diagram, we've got our biotic or our living factors. We've got our seagull, and we've got a seal, and we've got fish, and looks like we've got a lobster. Ooh, lobster for supper would be nice. Lobster, and we've got seaweed, and all sorts of cool things like that. But what else do we have? Abiotic. Again, we've got water. We've got air. In this one, you can see there's a sand dune, which you can also, if you want to think of it in another way, you can think of it as soil. Down here, it looks like we have rocks. Okay. I think that pretty much covers it. So hopefully you've got the picture. It's anything that moves, that breathes, that you think is cuddly, is cute, might be gross, might be scary, but is alive. That is our biotic component. Our abiotic is anything that is dead. Sorry, dead is the wrong word. Anything that is non-living, but that we use, or that the animals use, or that the plants use to live. Okay, that's very important that you remember that. So let's get specific. What are our types of, or what are our different abiotic factors? So we'll start with physical factors. So our physical factors are things like light intensity, temperature, water, atmospheric gases, wind, and fire. Now, what do they mean? Light intensity should be pretty straightforward. It's how bright the light is. How bright is the sunshine? Is the little plant growing in a shady area, or is it growing in full sunlight? Temperature, is it cold? Or is it in the North Pole or the South Pole? Is it stuck out in the middle of the desert? Is it where it's a lot of rain and it's very humid, or not so much rain and it's very dry? Water, is it in a lake? Is it in the ocean? Is it in the desert? Does it rain in summer? Doesn't rain in summer? Is there no water? Is there some water? Does it depend? Okay, your gases, what we breathe in, breathe out, what we use. Wind, I think everybody knows what wind is. And fire. Before we move on, do we have any answers for our gas question?
Yes, I've just seen one. From Lerato, nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide.
Ah, good girl, Lerato. So nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. Those are our main gases. Good. The reason I asked that was because I have another question. Why, mindsetters, would fire be a factor, be an abiotic factor? Why do we need to consider fire in our ecosystem? Okay. So, Luni, I know I'm testing them today. It's crazy. I know.
Fire.
So, fire. Why fire? Why do you think fire?
As an abiotic.
Abiotic. Why would we consider it a factor? Why is it not just a, oh my goodness, it happens, and sorry about that?
I have no idea.
Okay, well,
fire.
ask
Okay,
the
yeah.
mindsetters, maybe they can help you out. Okay, so we'll move on. Okay, we'll then talk about our physiographic aspects. Physiographic factors, our aspect, our slope, our altitude, edaphic factors, pH, humus content, texture, water retention, air content. So in other words, what makes up the soil? Okay? So that's what we're going to get through, hopefully. So now, let's talk in a little bit more detail. Okay, so I said, light intensity is how much light something is exposed to. So if there's a high light intensity, that means that there's lots of light. If we're talking out in nature, we'll be talking about sunlight. So if there's lots of sunlight, it's bright, it should be hot. Okay, in Africa, it should definitely be hot. Your plant will be in lots of sunlight. What does a plant need sunlight for? Answer is photosynthesis. Ah, good girl. And what do we use photosynthesis for? Photosynthesis is for food. Why do we need food? Do you need food, Luni?
To eat.
Good, to eat. I don't know about the rest of you. I like my food.
Yes.
Really like my food. Don't know about the lions and the cheetahs and the rhinos and the bushback and all of them running around in the Kruger Park, but I think they do like their food, but I know that I definitely like my food. So I'd like the plants to make food. And how do the plants make food? They need photosynthesis. Well, they have to use photosynthesis. One of the things that they need besides sunlight, and Lorato mentioned it for us just now, is they need oxygen. Okay? So just remember that. So for our light intensity, why is light intensity important? Because we need it for photosynthesis. Another reason. Ha! Lini, I'm going to test your brain now. I know, it's terrible. It's terrible. This word phototropism. Any idea what it means? Any idea? Okay, photo?
Yes.
Okay, camera. In biology terms? Light. Okay, good girl. So, a bit of a nasty question, I know. Phototropism is like a behavior of a plant or of an animal towards or away from light.
Okay.
Okay? So phototropism is a plant, a positively phototropic plant means it's going to grow towards the light. Or a negatively phototropic plant is going to grow away from the light. Or you've got both in the same plant.
So not all plants need light to grow.
They do need light to grow, but some of them don't like that so
okay,
much.
okay.
So to generalize and say that the whole thing will grow towards or away from, it's not strictly accurate. But there are certain chemicals inside the plant that like light more than other chemicals. And what they will do is they will then make the plant change direction or grow. Have you seen sometimes you go into a garden where there's lots of plants?
Yes.
And you'll see that the plants all sort of like grow, but like that.
In the direction, yeah.
Why? Because they're trying to get out from under, let's say, a big shady tree or something, and the light is over there. So they will bend that way towards the light.
That's cool.
That's called positively phototropic.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
All right.
So phototropism means that the plant is going to want to grow towards the light. It happens that in a plant you can have positive and negative. Roots don't like light. So your roots are going to be negatively phototropic and they're going to grow away from the light. And your leaves and your stems are going to be positive and they're going to grow towards the light. So light intensity, how much light there is, phototropism, where is the light, and growth towards the light. Right? Photoperiodism. Photoperiodism. Photo meaning light, period meaning portion of time, something that happens in a block of time or over a certain amount of time. So photoperiodism is what happens or what does a plant do with a particular amount of sunlight or with that sunlight happening over a period of time. So, for instance, summer. Do you have a lot of sunlight? Do you have a little bit of sunlight? Do you have long days? Do you have short days? All of those things will affect what happens to your plant. So if you've got long, hot days with lots of sunlight, you will have a particular reaction in your plant. If you've got shorter days with less sunlight, like for instance in winter, your plant's going to do something different. So photoperiodism is what the plant does in response to how long it's exposed to sunlight. Actually, some of these things are actually quite cool.
Very interesting.
Nature's quite impressive, I must admit. I think we'll have to give Mother Nature like a high five when we see her.
Big hug.
I think so. Okay. This actually has to be the cutest little picture ever. That little guy is supposed to be a tree, but I think it's broccoli.
Broccoli. I was just about to know
Doesn't
that's
that just
broccoli.
look like broccoli? And broccoli loves the light. So there goes broccoli, glowing towards the light. Okay. Now, animals. So it's not just plants that love the light. I must tell you, I love sun. I love the sun. It's a problem because with my fair skin, I end up looking like a beetroot.
Don't you turn pink out?
Okay. Yeah. But like a
I get
lobster.
darker, like very dark.
Oh, do you get very, no,
I
and
do
you don't
dark.
like it? No, you don't like it. Okay. All right. So I go a bit like a lobster. Just not so attractive. Really is not beautiful. Okay. But I still love the sun.
I don't
Okay.
like the
Now
sun.
animals are the same. I've got a little puppy dog that's running around. The best thing for her is to sneak outside and to lie in the sun. And she'll lie there and her eyes are closed and she's just stretched out. And so animals like the sun as well. So it's not just to enjoy and to warm up and that sort of thing, but they also enjoy it for behavior, or they need it for behavior. So your two types of behavior that come with light is nocturnal and diurnal. So if they are mostly active at night, that doesn't mean that they can't do something during the day, but it means they're mostly active at night. They're called nocturnal. If they are mostly active during the day, they're called diurnal. So our couple of examples here are an owl. I like owls.
I don't.
Are you not a fan of owls?
They're
They're
scary.
beautiful and they're wise.
Scary.
And why are they scary?
I think it's because when we grew up, like superstition. and
Okay,
all of
so you
that
got a lot
stuff.
of superstition
Yeah.
attached to it.
So when you saw an owl at night, it means something bad is going to happen.
Okay, all
So
right.
I've never been a fan.
But I'm glad you said that, because what are the chances of seeing an owl during the day?
Exactly.
So your owl is a nocturnal animal. You're going to see it at night, not during the day. Okay?
Very freaky.
What about our
animals.
diurnal animals? Those are the ones you're going to see during the day. Does it mean that the lion's not going to get up and walk around during the day, during the night? No, it doesn't. But it just means that he's going to go hunting, or he's going to go charging around, or he's going to go running around looking for things. And so is the rhino. What else have we got here? A leopard and an elephant. They're going to go doing all their looking for food, chasing each other around, mostly during the day. But if someone comes to bother them at night, they won't turn around and say, sorry, I only work during the day, go away. Okay, they will actually have to get up, do something, protect their territory, whatever it is that they need to do. So these are general categories. It means where most of the behavior happens. So most of the behavior happens at night, nocturnal. Most of the behavior happens during the day, diurnal. I love some of these bio words. I'm such a nerd. You know that. Really, I am. That's
your
okay.
thing.
That's okay. It's all right. My mom loves me. That's fine. Okay. So now, what other physical factors? How cool is this picture? I told you I wanted to be a bear.
Yes.
How cool is that
Perfect.
picture? In winter, to be a bear. Why to be a bear in winter? Because you get to hibernate.
Sleep.
Okay? So some of the physical factors that we're going to talk about. Temperature. The temperature that plants and animals are exposed to is important because it affects the way that they behave, and also it affects where they live. So for instance, a cactus is designed and is modified and has changed so that it lives comfortably in a desert. So now pick a cactus up and try and put it in a rainforest. It might survive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it will flourish. It will live comfortably there, be very successful. Okay, so the temperature at which a plant or an animal finds itself is very important to how that animal survives, how it flourishes, what it does to reproduce and to carry on with that species. So the reason I said I like this bear is because I am not a great fan of the cold. Like I said, I love the sun. I'm not a great fan of the cold. I would rather, exactly like a bear, find a cave and doze, just sleep for the winter. Okay? Looney, do we have an answer to that fire question?
I'm still looking. No, there's no.
No,
answer.
and still not. Okay, because I want to ask a question about the hibernation. Do
Okay.
you think we'll have a better response to hibernation?
Let's try it.
Should we try it? Okay. What does hibernation mean?
Okay.
So does it mean sleep, or does something else happen to the animal or to the animal's body during that time? Does it only sleep, or is it another change in the animal's body that occurs? Okay. So let's see, I don't know, I think I might have scared the grade
We'll
10s off
see.
today.
No.
I don't know.
They were excited about the first question, so let's see what they say
all right.
about this one.
Okay.
Do
We'll
you
see.
want to take a very quick break first?
Should we?
Yes.
Okay, good idea. Let's do
Alright.
that.
Mindset is let's take a very quick break and we'll see you straight after this. We could just.
Do you want to
What I
rewind
want to
and
say,
try that
we
again?
just got
We
Wow.
got, yeah, that's it.
Yes.
We just got.
some news.
We did. Apparently it took your breath away.
Oh, clearly. I'm mixing up our words. Llewellyn is watching!
Yay!
So he might not be here, but he's still watching the show. We're so excited. Hi, Lou.
Hello, Lee.
Hopefully you're waving back at the
Yeah.
screen.
If not, Leni will come find you.
Yes.
There we go.
Always. So my set is, I need to tell you about the Get Connected competition. All you need to do to stand a chance to win either a Sony Xperia R or 55 Rand Vodacom airtime. All the information is on our Facebook page, but I'll take you step by step. Step number 1 says you go to a Curio page, and then you click on that link, you enter learn, and then you pick your favorite teacher. And then you go back to the Facebook page, the teacher you've chosen, there are links there, and then you click on your favorite teacher. You go to that picture, you like the picture of your favorite teacher. Then you go back to the competition graphic, and then you share the competition.
Ooh, you really
competition
took your
graphic.
breath away. You really took your
And
breath
then you
away.
share the competition graphic. Once you've done that, all those people who've shared the competition graphic will stand a chance to win Vodacom airtime. Then all those people who've chosen the teacher with the most likes will stand a chance to win a Sony Xperia R.
Oh, that
So
sounds
get connected.
good.
I'm trying. I don't know what's wrong with my
Oh,
words.
no, I'm
I think
telling you,
after,
he clearly took your breath away.
It just went. My
I have to
vocab.
ask a question. When you
left.
said like the picture,
Yes.
are the pictures really nice, or just you have to like the picture because it's the person that you
we
like?
had problems with those pictures.
Are they not
because
so nice? Oh dear.
Some of them are very iffy. Like,
Oh.
but because they love the teachers.
Oh,
they're
then
like,
it's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't
All right.
matter.
No, then that's fine. Oh dear. Okay. Shall we
Yes,
try and carry on
let's
with this?
yeah.
Okay, we'll carry on with this. All right. Welcome back, grade 10s. We had a little bit of a chat during the break, and we decided that we're going to try and wake the brains up, and we're going to skip to the question, see if we can wake your brains up, and then go back to the important stuff. So I want to see how the brains are working. I'm going to come back to the challenge question. So don't think I've
As
forgotten.
well as your hibernation question.
And see, what would I do without you, as well as the hibernation question? So, but I want to show you what the question is we're going to answer just now. It is, in an investigation into soil samples, and we haven't done soil samples yet, so we'll go back and talk about them now, with different pH values. So soil samples with different pH values, that's important, were taken to determine which pH range different soil animals prefer. So in other words, animals like different pHs, okay? Keep that in mind. Study the following graph, which shows the range of pH within which each of 4 soil animals, A to D, is found, okay? So there's your graph. A, B, C, and D are the animals, right? And then at the bottom here, you've got your pH range. Okay, so now, before we can talk about that, we need to figure out what's going on with soil. So let's go and talk about soil. Okay, now, Leni, when was the last time you played in mud?
You're in mud.
In mud.
Probably when I was in
Maybe like this big.
preschool, yeah, like
Okay.
short little.
And what did it feel like?
It was wet and gooey.
Wet and gooey?
Yes.
Okay. And could you, if you did this with it,
It
Did
slipped off.
it slipped off?
Yeah.
Did it feel rough?
Sometimes
Okay.
it felt. I think it's because there were like little stones in the mud.
Okay.
It's like when you go like this, it felt a bit rough.
All right. So I like the fact that you said it was gooey. Okay. Because now if I think back to the last time I played with mud, also like and probably like 1,000 years ago because I'm a lot older. So, but mine didn't feel gooey. Like I remember the soil was, okay, let's put this pen down. You could pick it up and it sort of just fell through my hands. So it wasn't like pick it and gloop. It wasn't one of those. You pick it up and it fell through your hands. Okay, so that means that at least between the two of us, we have two different types of soil.
Different parts of the country.
Different parts of the country, maybe the garden's been done or been changed in a specific way because of plants that mom's grown or whatever. Like, so there is a reason for it to be different. Okay, there should actually be three. So there's three. Okay, so let's talk about the three. So you should have three different types of soil. So let's talk about them, and then we'll talk about what makes them up. You get sandy soil. I'll draw a block for a change instead of underlining it. You get a sandy soil. You get what is called a loam. So we don't have the name here, so I will write it for us. Loam. And then we have clay. So the type of soil that Looney was talking about, where it's sort of sticky and gloopy like that, I would think that's clay soil, okay? Because the particles stick closer together, they hold water. So water doesn't drain very well out of that particular soil. The type of soil that I was talking about, where it just falls out of your hands, that was the sandy soil, okay? It has a grainy texture. It's formed from, this is important, weathered rocks. And someone's going to say, I know someone's going to say, but all soil comes from rocks. Yes, you're right. Okay, somewhere along the line, some mountain or some rock has been worn down, but different types of rock give us the different types of soil. Okay. The type of soil here is limestone, granite, quartz, shale. You don't need to know what the type of rock is, where it comes from. Okay, you don't need to know that. All that I'm saying here is that the sandy soil has got a very different texture. It comes from these particular rocks, and if you decide to go and study geology, which is the study of rocks, you will figure out the details as to why it behaves the way it does and why you end up with a sandy soil and not something like clay. Okay, let's talk about the clay soil. Very fine granules. Sandy soil, it had grain, what they call grainy granules. Clay is fine granules. Okay, less air spaces. Water holding capacity is high. Sometimes it leads to waterlogging, which means that the water doesn't drain away and it gets all soggy and the water just collects. Okay, aeration is minimal. And clay becomes very heavy when it's wet. It doesn't sound like it's the nicest place to grow if you're a plant. Doesn't mean that plants can't grow in clay soil, but it's not very easy to grow there. Why? Because the particles stick close together. They can't get the plants can't get their roots through because the particles are stuck together. Very little air between the particles. Why? Because they're stuck close together. Okay, so what happens? It hangs on to a lot of water. A lot of water gets collected. What happens when there's a lot of water around the roots? The roots will drown or they will die, and that means that the plant doesn't continue to survive as it should. So if your plant dies, we have a problem. Not what we want to have happen. So what actually is the best type of soil? It's the loam. It's got sand, it's got silt, and it's got clay. Okay? So if you go into these beautiful gardens, there's always competitions every year where ladies or gentlemen have spent hours and sometimes months and weeks and years in growing beautiful gardens. You go in and you have a look at the soil in their gardens, and it's that deep, dark, rich color, rich mixture. Loam soil. But it's a mixture. It is a little bit of sand, a little bit of silt, a little bit of clay. Okay? So the sand, we said, came from the rocks like limestone and that. The clay, we said, was those particles that stick close together. And silt is like that fine, fine, fine sand that you get at the bottom of riverbeds. All right? So in the specific composition, those mixed together, that makes loam soil. Why is it such a good one? Sandy part of it gives air spaces between the soil particles, so the roots can push through and the little bugs and the little worms can move their way through. Okay? Water, when it rains or when you water the garden, the water can seep through between the various particles so water can get into the soil. Clay, why is it important to have a little bit of clay in there? So that the water doesn't just run out. So the clay will keep it sticking a little bit better than the sand, so it can hold on to a little bit of water so the water doesn't just run out, so the roots have time to drink up and to absorb the water. Okay, but what else is important about the loam? It's not just the silt and it's not just the clay. It is things like the pH. Okay, Leni, I'm going to spring a science question on you. What is pH? Can you remember?
Levels of...
Okay, Leni's doing this. I like it. Yeah, levels of?
Acid. Yes. And? Acid and?
What's the opposite of acid?
Base.
There we go. Right. So pH is a scale. The pH scale indicates how acidic or how much acid or basic, how much base there is in a particular soil. Now, interesting thing is, different plants and different animals like different pHs. So not everybody likes to be in the middle where it's neutral. Some of them like it more acid, some of them like it more base. For instance, I've got a little, I can't remember what it's called now, I think it's a camellia growing outside my front door. And for the last couple of weeks, we've been pouring the tea out of our teapot and pouring the tea into the pot where the camellia grows. And our camellia is loving it. It is growing nice and tall, and the leaves are dark, dark, dark green. And we've got this beautiful, beautiful, deep red, pinky color flower that's growing. Now, last year, we definitely didn't pour tea on that pot, and grew a little bit, and it was a light pink flower. Okay, so it doesn't mean that the plant does not grow if it's not in the right pH. It just means that it grows better when it's in its favorite pH. Okay, so that's why pH is important. So examples here. Okay, you get pH of acidic peat. So peat, or like a bog, you get them in Scotland. I don't think we have any in this country. With lots of water, lots of clay. Like just you can't sort of walk on it because it's just very wet, very mushy, quite acidic. Mineral soils in humid regions. So a humid region would be your Natal areas. It could be your forest, your rainforest areas like that. Your basic or your alkaline, you're going to get pH range of mineral soils in arid regions. Arid means that you've got less rain, slightly drier. And then very alkaline soils, you should be going to where it's very, very dry. I wanted to ask a question about Lucerne, but I've realized I'm asking too many questions. Do we have an answer to any of the questions that I've asked
Hibernation,
yet?
yes.
Do we have a hibernation question?
And
a hibernation answer.
And the fire. Okay, wait.
Let's start with the fire. Go with the
fire
answer.
Fire answers.
Okay.
The reason that fire is abiotic is because it
doesn't live.
Causes a gas. Okay, here's another one.
Okay,
that was Jan. And then Gabriella is saying fire is a abiotic factor because mainly when the sun heats the Earth's surface at a high rate, it turns to cause some flames and then a fire starts. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Both are good answers. Both are good answers, but we're sort of missing slightly. So I think what Jan was saying there, where it causes a gas, when fire burns, it releases carbon dioxide. Okay, so when we talk about greenhouse gases, why do cars produce carbon dioxide? Because there's fire in the engine. There's an explosion in the engine. Okay. And then what was the other answer? The other one was the sun heating. Okay. Fire is an abiotic factor, number one, because it doesn't live. Okay. But the reason that it's considered a factor is because it has an important role in an ecosystem. A lot of plants actually use the fire to carry on the next generation. So in other words, a fire will sweep through the grassland, for instance, and it'll kill off the current generation so that the next generation that's in the ground waiting to come up can then grow. So it promotes a continual recycling or a continual cycling of generations or alternation of generations. I think it's one of the proteas actually that relies purely, the only way that the next generation can start is if there's a bushfire and this current generation is eradicated by fire.
Cool.
That's quite cool, hey?
Very cool.
Very cool.
And then hibernation, you want the hibernation?
Yes,
answers?
let's talk about hibernation.
Okay, let's go to Morgi. It is the slowing down of body processes when temperature drops and food becomes scarce.
I like it. That's an excellent answer. Okay, so hibernation, I know I said earlier on that it's sleeping, and I wish it was just purely sleeping, but that's almost what the animal does. So for instance, a bear, we don't have bears in this country, but a bear hibernates. It will eat for summer and for spring, summer, and most of autumn until it can't eat anymore. It will then find a little cave or find somewhere safe, and it'll go and lie down there and essentially go to sleep. But what will happen is that its body processes, as did you say her name was Morki? As she says, they'll slow down. So metabolism slows down, her heart rate slows down, her brain, the rate at which her brain works, everything slows down, so that for the 3 months or 4 months of winter, the body will keep alive, but it doesn't need a lot of energy. So all the eating that the bear did for the rest of the year, all of that food that was stored as fat, the fat now gets broken down and released slowly as energy to last over those 3 months. Otherwise, the poor bear's got to try and find food for the whole way through the winter, and whatever the bear eats, it's very difficult to find during the winter. So nature has designed it that bear rather just goes and hibernates, has a bit of a sleep, a little bit of a slow down for those 3 months, body sorts itself out, it slows down, it rests, and then as soon as spring is in the air, bear wakes up, metabolism wakes up, everything starts moving faster, bear goes out, I'm hungry, time to eat. Ooh, I could so be a bear. Really, I could so be a bear. Okay, so let's get back to, well done, guys. Those are very good answers. I'm very impressed. Okay, so let's get going. Back with soil. So, edaphic factors. Humus content. So I said to you, loam has got soil, sandy parts, it's got clay parts. What is the most important thing? I think the most important thing, part of soil, is this thing called humus. It's the organic stuff. It is the decaying remains, here we go, decaying remains of plants and animals, together with animal excretory products. Most of you should know that by now you put compost or fertilizer, especially if you live on the farm, you'll know about cow dung. And how everybody says you need to collect the cow dung and you need to go and spread it all over the fields. Why? Because it is so rich in nutrients for the plants that are going to grow there. They grab all those nutrients out of it so that they can grow faster, they can grow stronger, they can grow, most cases, taller. Especially, well, unless of course it's one of those short plants. It'll be very funny if it grows tall if it's a short plant. Hey, it's a problem. Okay, so now, texture we've spoken about. Water retention we've spoken about. Oh my goodness. Do you think it was, I don't know. I think we've got a ghost drawing on our little, doesn't matter. Let's find our question again and answer this question now. I know it's here somewhere. We had it here somewhere. There we go. That's it. All right. So let's talk about this question. So the different types of soil, and we said that pH is important. So now the question was about animals that live in different pHs of the soil. So looking at our graph, which species, A, B, C, or D, occurs over the widest range of pH conditions, and you have to explain your answer. Okay, so remember, at the bottom here is our pH range, and then our individual arrows, just in case, our individual arrows over here those are our animals. So, which one, A, B, C, or D, occurs over the widest range? Simple, look for the longest one. So, the longest one would be D. Okay, I was from the right place. D. And then to explain your answer, you're going to say something about how long the pH or how wide the pH range is. So let's see, it's about 4. It's about 9. So we'll say something like, has a pH range from 4 to 9, let's say. Okay? Can survive in pH conditions below 4. Okay, so we have a look. pH conditions below 4, that is anything down this side. So what do we have? pH condition. Ooh, we've got 2. Okay, which one is more likely? More likely, I would say, is C, because most of the arrow is below 4, but it could possibly be A. So if you want to say, you can say A, oh my goodness, A and C. Okay, it hasn't asked us to explain, so we don't need to explain, but if you wanted to, you could say that the arrows occur below, or it indicates that the animal lives in a pH range below 4 and appears to be least tolerant of acidic conditions. In other words, it is not good in acid. Now, you need to know something about what is acid and what is base. If you didn't know, you need to listen carefully. Your pH scale works from 1 to 14. In the middle is pH 7, it's your neutral. Okay, anything less than 7, so from 1 to 6.9. So if we say 1 to 7, it's going to be acid. If we go 7 to 14, it's going to be base. So if we go 1 to 6.9, acid, 7 point something, so maybe 8 to 14, it's base. So quickly, before we go to a break, because I know it's time for a break, which is least tolerant of acidic conditions? It has to be the one that's nowhere near 7, and it's going to be B. Luni, over to you.
Break time. Mindset is a quick congratulations goes out to Patricia Chetty. You have won yourself this Cassia calculator from the Taste Yourself competition. So Mindset is, if you want to be like Patricia, enter the Taste Yourself competition. The link is on our Facebook page, and we'll see you straight after the break. Welcome back, Mindsetters. From that break is a challenge question time.
It is, and we've had a couple of answers.
Yes, 4.
But what did I say was missing in some of those answers?
4.
Okay, right.
Positive.
We've had good answers. Okay, really good answers. Thing is, though, guys, you didn't read the question very carefully, because if you look at it again, it says a multinational mining corporation is seeking the rights to mine coal in the Kruger National Park. That's the problem. What you have to do, what argument can you make in support of this proposal and in opposition? Okay, so in other words, your answer needs to have for and against. You need to be saying, I agree with it for the following reasons, or I disagree with it for the following reasons. So some examples would be, okay, I've just drawn a for and against. Just as if you want to plan your argument, you just quickly draw up a for and against column, and then you can put your ideas down, and then you can put it into a decent flowing argument. But for instance, for, why would it be a good idea? Job creation. Okay, big thing in South Africa at the moment. So job creation, it'll be good for the local economy. Lini, what else? Job creation's a big thing, local economy. Anything else that's quite positive, making a mine? No.
Those are the two main.
Those are probably about the two main things. Okay, so then against would be, there's probably a whole lot more. Against would be destroying the ecosystem of the animals. pollution, because now you've got to have all these horrible machines that are digging up the earth to get the coal out, and then they're spitting carbon dioxide and all sorts of fumes into the air. You're going to have, it's going to ruin a tourist attraction. You're going to have possibly a destruction of the water supply. So like, for instance, acid rain or acid mine drainage, that sort of thing. So in this case, there's going to be a lot more arguments against than there are going to be for. But the key part is that you have to have both. Okay, so the answers that we got on our webpage were mostly against. And guys, I like your answers. I agree with you. Kruger National Park is a beautiful part of our country. We don't want to lose it. But when you're answering a question like this in your test, you need to be very careful when you read it. And if it says for and against, whether you agree with it or not, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the person who wants to do the mining. And then you need to put yourself in the shoes of the person who doesn't want to do the mining. And you need to give both sides of the argument. Okay, all right. Should we push on with question 2, do you think?
Can I just ask one
Absolutely.
quick question? From Tepi, so what is aeration?
Good question. Okay, so we're going back to, we're talking about soil again.
Okay.
All right. Tepi, so aeration is literally what it sounds like, air. It's how much air there is in the soil. So for instance, in your clay soil, the aeration is going to be poor because, like I said, those particles are very sticky. They stick close together, so there's not much space for air molecules to get in. In your sandy soil, there's going to be lots of air. So your aeration is how much air spaces there are around the particles. In loam, it's a nice balance between not enough and too much. Okay, so that's why loam soil is the best one to grow your various plants and trees and veggies and those sort of things in. So aeration is how much air there is in the soil. Okay, cool, right. Let's go on. Whoop, no, wrong way. Question 2, quickly. This one, I actually want to show you guys. Even if we don't get to the question, this I have to show you because I think it is something that is so cool. Okay, here we go. This thing called physiographic factors. Something we don't think about often, but it's so important. It's the position of the ground relative to the sun, relative to everything else. So for instance, where is the tree relative to the sun? If you have a slope, if you have a hill, is the tree on the north side of the hill or is the tree on the south side of the hill? That is important. Why is it important? Because it affects how much sunlight you get. Is the hill steep or is the hill not so steep? Why is that important? Because if it's very steep, the water runs off really quickly and the roots can't grab the water when it rains. If it's not so steep, nice and shallow, what does that mean? That it's enough time for the roots to grab the water that we need. Okay? What else do we have? So we've got slope. I've spoken about that. And altitude, the last thing. I think everybody knows about Mount Everest, like the tallest mountain in the world. What is it about Mount Everest? It is super high. It is super cold up there. You are not going to find lots of trees and lots of plants and very few animals. I promise you, there's very few animals up there. So altitude is important when it comes to where things live, how successful they are at living. So the lower the altitude, in other words, the closer to sea, the better or the easier it is for things to live. The higher up it is, higher up in the atmosphere, like Mount Everest, the more difficult it is to live. And Luni, I think someone's whispering that it's time for us to go.
It's time to go. Thank you so
It's
much.
been so quick.
I know, it goes by so
so
fast.
quick.
So you're having fun. Time
So much fun.
flies. Thank you so much. Hope to see you again.
You too. Thank you. I enjoyed it. Mindsetters, behave yourselves. Well done for answering the questions. See you soon.
Thank you, Tara. Mindsetters at home, thank you for tuning in. Remember, if you have more questions, send them through our help desk. We have all the information on our Facebook page. And the Learn Extra Life Sciences help desk is proudly brought to you by AXA. So we'll see you again next week. Goodbye from us.
Bye.